everyone. Welcome back to Azka Online Tutors. Today we're going to talk about something very interesting in biology, unicellular organisms. You might already know that the living things are made up of cells. Some organisms are made up of many cells like humans, plants and animals. But can you imagine a living organism made up of just one cell? Yes. These organisms do exist and they are called the unicellular organisms. The word unicellular is actually very easy to understand. Uni means one and the cellular means cell. So a unicellular organism is the organism that is made up of one cell, but don't think that because it has just one cell, it is not a complete organism. That one cell has to do everything. It has to get food, get rid of waste, take in oxygen or other substances it needs, and respond to its surroundings as well. Imagine if your body was just one cell, that one cell would have to do all the jobs that your millions of cells do in the body. Some of the examples of unicellular organisms are bacteria, protists, yeast, and archaea. Now let's discuss the parts of unicellular organisms. So it has many of the basic structures that the cell needs to survive. For example, the cell membrane, which controls what enters and leaves the cell. It has cytoplasm, where many chemical reactions takes place. It also has genetic material or nucleus that contains the instructions needed for them to live. Some of the organisms also have the cell wall, and they have mitochondria, which is the powerhouse that releases energy for the food. However, not all unicellular organisms have exactly the same structure. For example, bacteria, they do not have nucleus, while organisms such as Amoeba and Paramecium, they do have nucleus. Now, what is bacteria? Bacteria is a microscopic single-celled organism. That means it's a unicellular organism. They do have different shapes though. Some of them are round, some of them are rod-shaped, some of them have other irregular shapes. Now, bacteria are found everywhere. So, for example, you can find them in the soil, water, food, and every single living organism. Now, some bacteria are quite helpful, while the others can cause diseases. A good example of helpful bacteria is the bacteria that lives in our digestive system, because it helps break down some of the food that we eat and support our digestion. So, not all bacteria are harmful. In fact, many bacteria are quite useful. Now, let's discuss what the amoebas are. They are also the unicellular organism that usually lives in water and damp environment. It has very interesting shape because it doesn't have a fixed body and can change its shape and extend to the parts of its cell. They are called the false feet. These help amoeba move, and the amoeba can also use these extensions to surround and take in food. Imagine like you're using your hands to pick up small pieces of food, and amoeba does the same thing and it uses parts of its cell. So the amoeba can move and feed using its false feet. Then comes the Paramecium. It is another unicellular organism and it is usually found in fresh water such as ponds. Unlike amoeba, a Paramecium has a more fixed shape, and it is covered with many tiny hair-like structures called the cilia. Now the cilia beat back and forth and help the Paramecium move through the water, and they also help move food towards the area where it can be taken into the cell. Now comes the Euglena. It's another interesting unicellular organism. It also lives in fresh water and it has a long narrow shape structure that is called the flagellum, which helps it move through the water. But Euglena is especially interesting because it can get food in more than one way. When there is enough light, Euglena can make its own food through the process of photosynthesis, just the same as plants. But under some conditions, it also takes in nutrients from its surrounding. So Euglena is a great example of how unicellular organism can have different ways of surviving. Now the question is that how do they actually survive? They get food in different ways, like absorbing nutrients or making their own food. Some also take in food particles from their surrounding. They can easily move as well, using cilia, flagella, and their false feet. Others stay in one place and do not move much. They also reproduce by cell division or budding. One cell splits into two new cells to form new organisms. Now, where do these cells live? So they live in water, soil, air, food, and inside other living organisms. Some of them also live in ponds and lakes, and others live in very hot, salty, or harsh environments. Some bacteria even live inside our digestive system. So unicellular organisms are not limited to one particular place. They can be found everywhere on the earth. Why they are important? They are important because they help in decomposition, digestion, food chain, and oxygen production. So even though they are tiny, they play a huge role in keeping the nature balanced. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was informative.